Hello, and welcome to the launch of Mitéra Med. As most of you know, my name is Dr. Tyler Farish. I'm a naturopathic doctor here in Los Angeles and the Chief Medical Officer for Mitéra Med, offering food intolerance evaluations direct to consumer and to physicians around the country like yourselves. Today I want to let you know why we found food intolerance evaluations to be superior to food sensitivity testing, how we can best support your practices, and what conditions are best supported through this evaluation. Let us start with why an intolerance evaluation rather than a food sensitivity test. First, they're offering two different lenses into your patient's health. The intolerance highlights an inherited enzyme deficiency, whereas a sensitivity highlights antibodies supporting the immune-mediated response and tagging select foods that are potentially an enemy. Second, when running a food sensitivity panel, we're identifying the downstream symptom, not necessarily identifying and addressing the root cause. For example, the effects of mental emotional stress on GI permeability alone are well documented. When combined with the standard American's lack of dietary variation, it's with no surprise that we find food sensitivity panels highlight foods the patients are most commonly consuming at that time, plus or minus a few outliers. A solution: start upstream. Identifying and eliminating one's intolerance removes metabolic stress in the human frame and prevents the downstream GI irritation that seeds inflammation, dysbiosis, malabsorption, fatigue, and immune suppression, just to name a few. Our protocol here is simple. Identify the intolerance, flush it out of their system, and use your most successful protocols to accelerate GI repair and recovery. We find consistently that when removing one's intolerance and following the above protocol, we significantly reduce the long list of food sensitivities when run concurrently. Third, patient compliance plummets when it focuses on broad restriction of a long list of sensitivities, overwhelming not only the patient, but ourselves as practitioners. As deep as our knowledge runs in clinical nutrition, we often struggle articulating what patients should eat in alignment with this long list of sensitivities. The solution? Food intolerance evaluations keep it targeted and simple. Most patients just have one primary intolerance and one combination intolerance. To ease the transition even further, Mitéra has supported an overcrowding method, dense in resources such as food guides, replacements, and recipes, all aligned with the patient's core intolerance, reducing their clinical needs for support and empowering the patients to take action in their own healthcare plan. Lastly, unlike food sensitivity panels, which provide an ever-changing snapshot of one's immune response to foods, intolerance evaluations have to only be run one time, as the results do not change over the course of a patient's lifetime. Besides the long list of benefits it brings to employing this clinical tool, it saves patients money and a provider's time. Mitéra Med offers the three following products: a core intolerance evaluation, an expansion series, and the opportunity for patients to submit supplements for evaluation. Our core evaluates the 10 most common intolerances, of which every single patient ever evaluated has at least one primary and one combination. We will also provide a cell salt recommendation and a vitality marker. The vitality marker is not shared with the patients, but instead directs us clinically to the best level of support and intervention that patient requires. Our expansion series evaluates the most commonly consumed foods and beverages: coffee, chocolate, nuts, seeds, legumes, your kitchen sink herbs, etc. And while less frequently found, should a patient have one of these, the removal has moved heaven and earth for them in so many cases because of its frequency in their diets. Lastly, we offer supplement evaluations. Due to the speed in which supplement companies come and go, the change in their sourcing of raw materials, production processes, and more, we offer patients this service to individualize and further insulate their treatments. Here, patients mail in their supplements in question, and Mitéra provides them with a simple yes or no in its compatibility with the patient's intolerance. The most common question we receive from customers and physicians alike is, which medical conditions does this intolerance best support? Truthfully, there is not a condition we have found to not benefit from this clinical tool and protocol. For myself and our network of providers, evaluating a patient's food intolerance has become synonymous with running a patient's baseline labs. To name a few leading conditions we see accelerated recovery when applying: gastrointestinal conditions such as GERD, gastritis, infections of the gastrointestinal tract such as Candida, H. pylori, SIBO, LIBO, parasites, Crohn's ulcerative colitis, celiac, and more. Dermatological conditions such as acne, eczema, and psoriasis. Fertility and breastfeeding, integral in the enhancing of fertility, and more importantly, it is worth its weight in gold in preventing infant colic, GERD, dermatitis, and tendency towards frequent infections. Musculoskeletal conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and gout, autoimmune conditions, environmental illness, chronic infectious disease, chronic fatigue. I could go on and on. Alright, so to conclude here, I presented a lot of information in a very condensed fashion. The most important takeaway, however, is not to rely solely on our recommendations or clinical experiences alone. If you have not already, try it on yourself first. Use the physician discount code and the email in which you received this introduction. Our support team is here if you have any follow-up questions. We look forward to partnering with you in your patient success story.